tell you my story with antlers. My husband had an archery tag for deer this year. And so last night he went out and he got a deer, and it was a 4-point just like this. So we are gonna have some venison chili and tacos this year. Okay, so my background, that is my real story for today. I just kind of think these filters, it's like Snapchat on Zoom. So why not like make it more exciting for you guys so that it's not so boring. This is a rock back in Norway. So I'm gonna move myself to the side so that you can see it. This is a boulder that fell between the two cliffs way back, okay? You are also sitting 3,500 feet above the ocean water. Now in Norway, they have a lot of fjords. It's basically water inlets from the ocean. It's kind of like a peninsula where you have all this water. So if you were to look straight down from that rock, you are over water. And I will tell you, when you are standing on that rock, it is really nerve-wracking. So this is what happened. When we lived in Norway, we worked on the NATO base there. And so they always had these fun weekend tours that we could sign up to just go out and discover Norway. So this is a famous rock there in Norway. And we wanted to hike to it. So on a Saturday morning, we got onto the charter bus and we all went for like a 4-hour drive to get to this rock. No matter where you go in Norway, it always takes longer because of the fjords, because when you're driving, you have to go in and around and around and around all the water. So if you were to look at a map and you would have looked at the city that we lived in, Stavanger, and across the water, you would have seen a bigger city called Bergen. If we were to go straight from Stavanger to Bergen, it would take us like a half hour, but there was water. And so really the drive around all of the fjords, you even had to get the car onto a ferry at 2 or 3 different locations. It actually took, golly, I think it was like 3 or 4 hours. So that's just the nature of living in Norway, and it's absolutely beautiful. So you can't complain about it. Well, there's one problem when you are in a vehicle for 4 hours trying to get to a rock. You have to use the restroom. So one of our big, burly, tough military guys got up and he was like, okay, guys, we're going to have the hardcore hiking group, and then there's going to be everybody else. And when somebody says that to Medlock, I get a little competitive. I'm like, well, if there's a hardcore group, sign me up. So I wanted to go with the hardcore group. They were getting off first. And the problem is everybody else is getting off down at the tourist center where they have the bathroom. So here I am, my brain's going, I'm like, I'm gonna beat them to the top, Casey. And Casey's just like, whatever. So we drop off the hardcore group and then we drove down to the tourist center. And I am standing there with my jacket in my hands. I have my backpack on. I am standing there, first one ready to get off the bus. And the second that bus driver opens the door, I am ready to sprint. So he opens the door and I sprint and then I fall. And I'm telling you guys, at high altitude, you all know how the asphalt gets real gritty. I went skidding across the asphalt. And I did a real doozy on my hands and elbows and knees. And I just remember looking at myself and it was like starting to bleed. I'm like, oh, shoot, Medlock, you're so clumsy. And so the next thing, I turn around and I look up at my husband and he's just kind of looking down at me like, do I ask her if she's okay right now? Or do I just flat out laugh at my wife? So I can just read it all over his face. I'm like, I'm fine. And I just like got up, picked up my stuff, and then just started running up the hill. So I'm like, we gotta get to the trail. So here we are. And the guide also said, you know, this hike is going to take about 5 hours round trip. And my whole mentality with those things, and it was the same when I ran marathons, the faster you go, the sooner it's over. Not that I didn't want to hike, but the thought of being out on a trail for 5 hours, that's a long time. So the faster you go, the sooner it's over. So my goal was to break 2.5 hours. And we did. But anyway, so we had to go over 2 peaks in order to get to the like flat land to get over to this rock. And so I'm running the trail. And at the back side of the second peak, I tripped again over my shoelace this time. And I just remember falling straight for this rock. And my face is about to go straight into this rock. And I told you guys, my acting resume is horrible. But maybe I should have gone into stunts because my face is coming for the rock and I'm like, oh no. And I did this like tuck and roll thing and I didn't hit the rock. And I remember getting up going, I don't know how I just did that, but I totally avoided it. And I'm looking at my knees and like, any new blood? No new blood. And then third, most importantly, did Casey see it? No, he didn't see it. Good. I'm not telling him. So I just get up and I start running again. And so we get up to the rock. And another thing I'm going to tell you guys is it had been raining that morning. And when rocks get wet, they get slippery. And so what we had to do is we had to crawl out on the back side of this cliff. Okay, you can't see it from this perspective, but you can see there's a little step right there. And he climbs up onto the rock. And it was a little breezy. That didn't make us feel much better. And we took a picture really, really fast. I have it on my desk at work. But I liked this picture. This was funny. And I got off the rock the second that picture was done. I'm telling you, my heart was pounding out of my chest. I was so nervous. Because you are staring 3,500 feet straight down into the water. And you know, if you fall, it's over. So it was beautiful. It was an experience. I will also tell you another part of that day that was really neat was over here around the corner and up on top of that cliff. There were base jumpers. And if you don't know what a base jumper is, they jump off of the cliff. And sometimes they have these web suits so that they can fly. Sometimes they just jump and then immediately pull their parachutes. And so it was really neat to watch those guys. So competition, we did beat the hardcore group. And when they saw that I beat them to the top, they had to make a bunch of excuses because this little girl beat them to the top. But we all hiked down together and hung out and had a really nice day. So there you go. If you ever go to Norway, I also want to point out another rock that you guys will have to check out. This is called Prekestolen. That's a famous one. Let me give you, see, this is how it's spelled. So when you hike this rock, you actually hike up and enter the top of the rock from over on the right side. Are you guys seeing my screen? I'm going to do a new share to make sure that you can see it. So yes, so it's over here. You hike up, and then what we did is we walked out here. I got down on my stomach and pretty much crawled out so I could look down and over the cliff. And there were people doing that, taking pictures like straight down. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to drop my camera and, or I'm going to drop myself. It's, you know, again, in Norway and in many other parts of the world, they are not as worried about putting up those posts and the security and stuff like that. So, um, there you go. If you ever go to Norway, those are two things that you absolutely have to check out. Really cool. Really cool. Okay.